أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Picking up on the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام's legendary military empire, the era of Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan, after completing a total of 31 videos of his era. Proceeding on now from page number 395 and completing a total of 69 videos, the era of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, the legendary government military of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. In a total of 50 videos, the era of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, legendary military legacy of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and the legendary military career of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a total of 30 videos there. Now again, as picking up in reference to the turmoil, we're still working with that analysis on the bulletin 20.12, the role of the Saba'ids in stirring up the conflict, which again, this is the conflict, the turmoil which took the life of Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan. It says that the Saba'ids reality or myth. This is a very important question. Classical scholars have unanimously agreed that Abdullah ibn Saba was a real man. Some modern scholars, however, do not think so. They assert that this man was a product of imagination of Saif ibn Umar at-Tamimi. This is because some hadith, some saying scholars had criticized his adequacy to narrate a hadith. This, however, does not suffice as proof, since the scholars still regard him as valid when it comes to narrations. Furthermore, Ibn Asakir mentions many narrations naming Abdullah ibn Saba that do not include Saif ibn Umar al-Albani has classified some of these chains as authentic. In addition to this, there are many reports containing the name Ibn Saba in the books of the Shiites themselves, and nowhere therein is this Saifu ibn Umar mentioned. Some researchers have denied the existence of Abdullah ibn Saba, claiming without any proof that he was a fictional character. These people are a group of Orientalists, some Arab researchers, and most of the modern-day Shiites also. It is indeed very strange that in our time, these Orientalists and their lackeys, the Rafidis, the westernized Muslims, can deny his existence. This is also surprising when one considers the many books that detail his biography and the narrators who have reported his actions. All the historians, scholars of hadith sector, analyze biographers, writers, and genealogists who have mentioned the Saba'id agree that Abdullah ibn Saba, mentioned in the books of Ahl Sunnah, was a real man, just as he was a living, breathing individual in the books of Shiites. Therefore, it cannot be said that the texts which talk about the text which had actually talked about his role in stirring up turmoil are restricted to Tariq at-Tabari and the narrations of Saif ibn Umar at-Tamimi. The reality is they are spread among the narrations of the early scholars as well as books of Islamic history and sects. The only special thing about Tariq al-Tabari is that it contains more narrations than others. It contains more narrations than others and goes into more detail. Thus, the doubt whether or not the things that are said about him really happened entails rejection of all these narrations, accusing the scholars and narrators of foolishness and distortion of historical facts. It is really correct to ignore the numerous classical and modern sources that affirm the existence of Abdullah ibn Saba. This man has been mentioned multiple times in the book of Ahl Sunnah, Asha Hamdan mentioned in the Saba'it in his mockery of Al-Muqtar ibn Abi Ubaid al-Thaqafi and his Kufan supporters after they fled with the nobles of the Kufan tribes. He states, I bear witness that you are Saba'it, our guardians of disbelief. I know you. A narration from Ash-Shabai states also the first one to lie was Abdullah ibn Saba. Ibn Habib, which is from 245 AH to 860 CE or 860 CE, mentioned Ibn Saba when he thought he was one of the sons of the Ethiopian women. Abu Asim Hushaysh ibn Asram, which is 253 years after the Hijriya, narrated in his Al-Istiqama that Ali burned a group of Ibn Saba's followers. Al-Jahid 255 after the Hijriya is regarded to be among the first to mention Abdullah ibn Saba. However, his narration is not the oldest as viewed by Dr. Jawad Ali. The story of Ali burned a group of heretics who had proven in authentic collection of hadith. Also calling Abdullah ibn Saba and his followers heretics is nothing strange. Ibn Taymiyyah states Rafidism only began with the heretic Abdullah ibn Saba. Al-Dahabi comments Abdullah ibn Saba was an extreme heretic and misguided deviator. Ibn Hajar says Abdullah ibn Saba was an extreme heretic. His followers who believed that Ali ibn Abi Talib was divine were called the Saba'ites. During his caliphate, Ali burned them with fire. Ibn Saba has also been mentioned in the books of critiques of hadith narrations. Ibn Hibban states, Al-Qalbi, Muhammad ibn Sa'ib al-Ikhbari was a Saba'ite from the companions of Abdullah ibn Saba, who claimed that Ali did not die and that he will return to this world before the final hour. If they see a cloud in the sky, they say the commander of the faithful is in it. Books of genealogy affirm the relationship of the Saba'ites with Abdullah ibn Saba as well, as can be seen in the book of Al-Ansab by Al-Asamani. Ibn Asakir introduces Ibn Saba as follows. Abdullah ibn Saba is the man with whom the Saba'ites, the extreme Rafidites, are affiliated. He was originally from Yemen and a Jew who pretended to be a Muslim. As we mentioned, Saif ibn Umar was not the only source of information about Abdullah ibn Saba, as Ibn Asakir in his Tariq mentioned narrations that did not include Saif but affirmed the existence and actions of Ibn Saba. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah confirmed that Rafidism was initiated by the heretical hypocrites. The heretic Ibn Saba invented it and exaggerated the status of Ali. He claimed that Ali was more entitled to the Khalifa as proven by a clear text and that he was infallible. Moving along now to page number 398. Ashabatibi pointed out that the innovation of the Saba'ites is dogmatic. It involves the association of another God with Allah, the Exalted, thus it is different from other innovations. In Al-Mawa'id wal-Ittibar by Al-Maqrizi, it is mentioned that during the time of Ali, Abdullah ibn Saba invented the beliefs of Ali's appointment as Khalifa, his return to this world, and the transmigration of souls. The following quote from a Shiite source mentions Ibn Saba as well. Al-Qishi'i narrated from Muhammad ibn Qulwah, Sa'id ibn Abdullah informed me Yaqub ibn Yazid and Muhammad ibn Isa told me that Ali ibn Mahzayar from Fadala ibn Ayyub al-Azdi from Abban ibn Uthman, who said, I heard Abu Abdullah Jafar as-Sadiq say, may Allah curse Abdullah ibn Saba from for he has claimed lordship for the commander of the faithful. By Allah, the commander of the faithful was an obedient slave who, to those who lie about us, there are people who say about us what we ourselves do not say, and we free ourselves of them. This narration has an authentic chain. Thus we conclude that Abdullah ibn Saba was a real man who existed in the past, and there is no doubt about this in the classical and modern reference works of the Sunnis and Shias alike. This is also the stance of most Orientalists such as Julius Falhausen, Van Volten, Levi de la Vida, Inak Goldzier, Reynold Nicholson, and Dwight Ronaldson. Others have considered him to be a doubtful figure or at best a myth. These include Caton Bernard Lewis and the uncertain Fred Lander. One should bear in mind that we do not rely on such people when defining our own Muslim history. Those who want to delve in detail into the reference work of the Sunni Shias and Orientalists that mention Ibn Saba should refer to the following: تحقيق مواقف الصحابة في الفتنة من روايات الطبري والمحدثين by Dr. Muhammad Hazum, and number 2 Abdullah ibn Saba وأثره في أحداث الفتنة في الصدر الإسلام by Sulaiman ibn Hamd al-Awda. 20.12.2 The role of Abdullah ibn Saba in stirring up the conflict during the last year of Uthman's Khalifa. Signs of instability appeared in the Muslim state. We have discussed the reasons in the previous pages. Certain Jews exploited the changes that were occurring in the Ummah, and they deceived people by pretending to be Muslims. Among these Jews was Abdullah ibn Saba, nicknamed Ibn as-Sawda. While one should not exaggerate his role in the conflict, as some people have done, one cannot doubt or belittle it. He played a clear and serious role in the turmoil. The atmosphere was conducive to turmoil, and other factors were also aiding his cause. The greatest harm caused by Ibn Saba was his invention of ideas and beliefs that were inspired by Judaism. He began spreading these notions with specific goal in mind, spreading deviation in the Muslim society and dividing it from within. He wanted to ignite the flames of conflict and plant the seeds of discord in the community. This was one of the factors that led to Uthman's murder and split the Muslims into sects and parties. Basically, he came with an appealing introduction and followed up with corrupt notions, which naive and extreme people readily accepted. He deluded them and convinced them to rally around him. He began explaining the Quran according to his corrupt understanding, saying, for example, "How strange are those who claim that Isa will come back but deny Muhammad's return. Allah has specified, Indeed, O Muhammad, he who has imposed upon you the Quran will take you back to a place of return. Say, my Lord is most knowing of all who brings guidance and who is in clear error." This is in the Quran. Allah Ta'ala says this in ayah number 85 of surah number 28. Thus Muhammad is more entitled to return, he would say. He also drew false analogies while attempting to prove that the Prophet ﷺ had appointed Ali ibn Abi Talib as the Khalifa to succeed him. He said there have been 1,000 prophets and each prophet had an heir. Ali was the heir of Muhammad ﷺ. Muhammad ﷺ was the seal of prophets and Ali was the seal of the heirs. Once he had gained numerous followers, he began focusing upon his actual goal, compelling the people to rebel against the Caliph of Uthman. Some of his followers became inclined towards this when he told them, "Who is more oppressive than he who does not act by the bequest of Allah's Messenger, pushing aside his heir and assuming the leadership of the nation?" Uthman took it unjustly right in front of the heir of Allah's Messenger, And he exclaimed that you must serve this cause and depose him. Start discrediting your rulers in the name of commanding the right and forbidding the evil. And people should be on your side, then invite them to this cause. He sent out his propagators and wrote to those who he had corrupted in different regions. Consequently, they replied in secret and invited people to their ideas under the banner of commanding the good and forbidding the evil. They fabricated letters wherein the residents of different regions specified the alleged faults of their governors, and then they sent them to other areas, whose residents in turn sent similar letters to them. Each of them would inform his associates in other regions about what the rulers were supposedly doing, and each would read these letters out loud in his respective regions. They continued this until they finally targeted Medina and announced the supposedly terrible situation of other regions all over the city. After hearing what was written in these letters, the people of other regions would say, "We have been spared from what these people have been afflicted with." However, since Medina had received these letters from every single region, its residents commented, "We have been spared from what has afflicted other regions." Thus, we discover the method used by Ibn Saba to sow the seeds of discord. He wanted to make it seem as if there was a dispute between two companions, Ali radiallahu anhu, the one who was wronged, and Uthman, who was the oppressor. He also wished to incite the people, the Kufuns in particular, about their governors in the name of commanding the right and forbidding the evil. He wanted to compel them to rise up and protest against these rulers from the smallest of reasons, or for the smallest of reasons. It should be remembered here that while recruiting followers, he focused upon the Bedouins because he found them suitable for his purpose. Some were lured by the concept of commanding the right and forbidding the evil. Those who had personal desires were incited through false rumors about Uthman, such as the claims that he favored his relatives, poured the state money into their pockets, and preserved grazing lands for himself. Utilizing these and other accusations, he managed to turn the rabble against Uthman. Once he had accomplished this, he instructed his followers to send letters to other regions. As we mentioned in the previous pages, once people believed those letters, igniting the flames of turmoil within the Muslim state became much easier. Uthman radiallahu anhu sensed that something was happening in these regions and they were in danger. He said, "By Allah, the milestone of turmoil is rolling. Glad tidings to Uthman if he dies without having moved it." Ibn Saba settled in Egypt, from where he began organizing his attack on Uthman. He incited people to head to Al-Madinah and create trouble in the basis that Uthman had abused power unjustly and pushed aside the heir of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, namely Ali. He deceived them by showing them letters that were supposedly written by the senior companions. Again, they were all forged letters. However, when these Bedouins went to Medina and met these companions, they received no support from them. On the contrary, the companions denied having ever written the letters that incited the people against Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan. The Bedouins also learned that Uthman held people's rights in the highest esteem. In fact, he even defended himself against their accusations, refuting them and explaining the correctness of his actions. This was the extent that one of these Bedouins, namely Malik al-Ashtar al-Nakhai, said, "Perhaps a plot has been prepared against him and you alike." Al-Dahabi is also of the opinion that Abdullah ibn Saba resided in Egypt and was not alone in his mission. Rather, he worked with a network that practiced different ways of deceiving and scheming, preparing the Bedouins and others for his mission. Ibn Kathir suggests that among the things that turned people against Uthman was the appearance of Ibn Saba, who moved to Egypt and spread various rumors, thus luring many Egyptians to join his ranks. All the famous historians and scholars agree that Ibn Saba appeared within the Muslims bearing his Saba'ite beliefs. ideas and plans. His aim was to divert Muslims from their religion and to sow discord within their ranks. He managed to attract a group of thugs to join him, and thus the well-known sect of P.B.U.H was born. The sect was among those responsible for the turmoil that ended with the murder of Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan. It seems that their plan was extremely organized. Their way of propagating their cause proved to be quite effective, and they managed to influence the mobs among the people. They also actively set up branches for propagation in various regions like Basra, Kufa, and Egypt. They were aware of the sensitivities or the yes, the sensitivities of Bedouins, slaves, and foreigners. Hence, they exploited their feelings and tribalism as well as their concealed desire to rebel. Inshallah, we will stop here right before part 7, titled "The Murder of Sayyidina Uthman." And I think that the information is getting more and more impressively interesting, namely because we not only see, the makeup of the turmoil, but we actually see the basis of it, as well as the various elements, components of this turmoil. Strangely enough, that we actually see many things that are extremely similar to the type of issues that we see day to day in these modern days and times, and it is just extremely interesting. So, inshallah, again we will be picking back up from page number 405. Subhanak Allahumma bihamdik wa tabarak asma rabbik wa ta'ala jadduk wa la ilaha ghayruk wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.